If you were a traveler 1500 years ago, what religions would you see? You'd see Christianity in the West, Buddhism in the East, and Zoroastrianism in between. But did you know there was once a major world religion that connected these vastly different identities? From Rome to China, the first major world religion, Manichaeism. To get a better understanding of this faith, I'm going to lead you through the founding, the beliefs, and the spread. Each of these segments will focus on how Manichaeism utilized syncretism to legitimize itself, and our understanding of legitimation is going to come from this handy book. Manichaeism was the most mobile religion in the ancient world. Starting in 3rd century Mesopotamia, it spread all across the Roman world. Through Persia, Central Asia, and China. It moved through languages, social systems, and cultural barriers at a rate few religions have managed to achieve without state backing. The survival of Manichaeism depended a lot more on the way they used religion as opposed to what they actually believed in. Manichaeism built legitimacy by treating culture like a toolbox. It used the symbols, vocabulary, and expectations of each region it came through. It used them as raw materials to present itself as familiar, credible, and trustworthy, while still remaining authentically and recognizably Manichaean. So, we're going to take a look at why those strategies worked, and what Manichaeism actually is. But first, to understand Manichaeism and its success, we have to understand its founder, Mani. Mani was born in 216 in Mesopotamia under Persian control. It was a region shaped by overlapping Jewish, Christian, Zoroastrian, and local traditions. He grew up in such a diverse area, and he grew up in such a diverse era. At this time, Christianity was still looking to find its identity, and there were very different sects of Christianity across the world. He grew up in a very interesting sect, somewhere between Judaism and Christianity, a group called the Elkosites. The extremely unique setting that he grew up in would later find itself at the core of Manichaean theology. People were very accustomed to various prophets having encounters with deities, having encounters with God, which gave them their legitimacy and authority. Mani was no different, and soon he would have his own divine experience. At age 12, Mani reported a revelation from his light twin, a divine figure who resembled him. The twin told him that he was chosen for a future mission, but for now, he must remain silent until the time was right. Mani spent the next 12 years ferociously studying the religious systems around him. This period of observation mattered. It shaped how he later built a religion that could move across cultural barriers seamlessly. At 24, Mani said this divine twin returned, and he told him to begin his mission. Mani left his Baptist sect of Christianity, and he preached a message centered on dualism, light and darkness. To spread that message, he needed strategies that would make it legitimate in such a diverse cultural landscape. This is where Mani's a little bit different from other prophets of the time. Instead of just being some kind of ascetic monk, he was more like a salesman. He was selling himself to people, and he was selling his ideas to people, too. One of the primary tactics that Mani used to spread his message was utilizing the familiar cultural pattern of prophetic succession. Different civilizations around him valued different figures, but most accepted the idea of divine messengers. Mani turned this idea into a flexible tool. He taught that all major world prophets at the time, Zoroaster, Jesus, the Buddha, they came from the same source of light that he was preaching about. And each of them, they revealed part of the truth that had been tainted and corrupted over time. Mani was here to fix that and provide an unspoiled version of the truth. By acknowledging and respecting these revered prophets, it placed him inside of the lineage they shared, instead of outside. This process further allowed him to build legitimacy in the eyes of the people. It let the religion plug itself into the local framework, instead of making the local framework fit it. To Christians, this made Mani look like just another apostolic figure. For Buddhists, he was a new Buddha of the light. It's extremely important to note that his religion wasn't very universalist. It just happened to adapt to whichever area it was in. You're not going to see the people in Rome thinking that he was a reincarnation of the Buddha. Each region of the world had its own variety, its own flavor of Manichaeism, and that's why it was so successful in the first place. The adaptability. From the start, Manichaeism was a religion of written revelations. Mani believed that this divine truth should be preserved clearly and precisely, not entrusted to oral tradition, but instead written down. He wrote extensively. He made hymns, poems, letters, and more, all trying to explain his message, trying to explain the cosmology of his worldview, and the accounts of his visions. These works formed the religion's canon. Unlike Christianity or Zoroastrianism, which developed their scriptures over centuries, Manichaeism started with a fixed and organized body of text, all written by our friend Mani. Followers believed that these texts were divinely ordained because Mani, the man who had those visions, he wrote them. He was more than a philosopher guessing at the universe's truths. He was a prophet. He was someone who had experienced and believed what he was saying. One of the books he made, the Artsag, and I know I'm butchering it, served as the primary religious text for the group. This book was special. It contained visual representation of the cosmology that he was talking about. He showed off the really cool dualist nature of his religion, this never-ending battle between light and darkness, yin and yang. Everything felt so organized and clearly defined, and that's part of what people were drawn to. Even the structure of the Manichaean communities added to the legitimacy of it. Mani taught that salvation required the liberation of light trapped in matter, light trapped in the body. Every action either freed light or imprisoned it. The way you eat, the way you talk, the things you do with your friends, all of these actions are either creating light or imprisoning it. It's very similar to the way that karma works, where every action you take has an impact on the universe around you, and everybody else around you too. Due to having this worldview, the followers of Manichaeism divided themselves into two different groups. The first group was known as the elect, and these people were basically monks. They focused on living extremely pure lives, extremely pure. They avoided meat, sex, ownership, and any act that could harm a living being. This lifestyle was meant to release light slowly over time. Even the process of eating, for the elect, that was a process of taking matter from the world and sort of using their body as a vessel to release light back into the world. For the laymen of the religion, they saw the elect as the most extreme examples of why the religion worked. Their discipline was proof at how transformative these ideals could be. The regular people following Manichaeism were known as the hearers because they heard the messages. Their primary purpose in the religious community was to provide the elect with food, because even though the elect couldn't directly harm stuff, they still had to eat, otherwise they would just pass away. Despite this whole balance of karmic justice and karmic injustice, the hearers still lived normal lives, but they followed a couple ethical teachings along the way. The primary ones were truthfulness, restraint, and generosity, which is all evident by the way they acted. But you might be wondering, so if killing anything, getting any resources from the world, whether it be food or something else, is inherently a negative action, then the hearers are the ones doing all these negative actions, and they're kind of raking up all that bad karma. Mani believed that the elect had a very heavy moral obligation, and that it was the responsibility of the hearers to support them through this. Not everybody has the same karmic obligations, so some people, they have to do some more of the dirty work. but that doesn't mean that they're a bad Manichaean or a bad person. They're just doing their role. We can see similarities with the way that the elect and the hearers acted with each other in the way that certain communities act today. If you ever happen to be near a Buddhist monastery, you might notice that some Buddhists have these big bowls they're carrying around, and that's because they're not allowed to have worldly possessions in some sects of Buddhism. So the people of the villages, the people of the community, they'll come over and they'll provide food and provide all the resources that these monks need. It's a very similar fashion to the way that the Manichaeans operated. At the center of Manichaeism was a very detailed cosmology. The religion taught that the universe began with two eternal realms, the world of light and the world of darkness. These realms were once separate and unequal. The light was pure and harmonious and peaceful, and the dark was chaotic and aggressive. The story of creation begins when darkness attacks the world of the light, and to defend itself, the world of light creates a cosmic figure known as the Primal Man. And this man, he sacrificed himself to contain the invading darkness. This battle resulted in little particles of light getting trapped in the material world, and they're still there today. So they believed that human souls were pieces of light, but our bodies were pieces of darkness that were entrapping it. So we all had light within us, but we were subject to the material world, which is inherently evil. This cosmology explains why harming other things is imprisoning light. Because if every living thing contains light, and if you hurt another living thing, you're just imprisoning it even more. You're making it trickier to get all that light back. Due to a lack of surviving texts, it's not very clear how the average Manichaean lived. I personally don't believe that they were accounting every action they were doing, just because that wouldn't really function in a society. That'd be very difficult to keep track of. But they did try to resist all negative urges and all harmful impulses that would lead to more darkness than light. For a lot of converts to Manichaeism, they were in favor of this worldview. They liked the idea that there was some decent explanation for why things weren't good in life, or how things could become good. A lot of other religions are the same way. It seems like the elect were closer to being these karmic accountants than the hearers were, because there were certain types of food that had more light to be released than others. Like, if you eat an apple, it's going to contain more light, so you're going to release more light after you eat it. Mani taught that people who were born as hearers were not destined to just be in some repetitive cycle of being hearer again and again and again. They seem to have believed in reincarnation. If you reach enough purification in one lifetime, you might advance a stage. If you're born a hearer, you might be reborn as one of the elect. And if you're one of the elect and you reach the next level of purification, you might just become light afterwards, which is the final goal, returning to the world of light. People liked knowing where they were on the cosmic scale, and how close they were to achieving this eternal salvation. So that's what drew lots of crowds in. The internal structure of Manichaeism is what made it so uniquely portable across the old world. The religion didn't depend on a single ethnic group, a single language, or a single political system. It had a fixed canon and a disciplined community that anyone could join. All of these features gave it a very stable identity, which helped it cross political borders. It spread so quickly because followers were encouraged to become missionaries. People would spread all across the world, and they would adapt to the local areas. They would translate Mani's words into the local languages, and if they didn't have a system of writing, sometimes the Manichaeans would just invent a system of writing for them, just to spread the word. The core principles of Manichaeism remained throughout whatever setting they were in, whether they be in Persia, Central Asia, or China. The followers of Manichaeism just really resonated with the questions that were answered by this faith. What's the origin of evil? Why do we suffer? Why do we desire things that harm us? Why do we feel so torn between two impulses? And what is the universe striving towards? Despite the strong internal framework that Manichaeism had, it faced opposition nearly everywhere it went. A big part of this was just because the rapid growth of the movement and how quickly it attracted people into it, and how fixed and organized it already was from the start. In the Persian Empire, the Zoroastrian authorities initially liked and respected Mani, but once the administration changed, he was imprisoned. He would eventually die in custody, becoming a martyr for his beliefs. In the Roman world, Christians saw him as a competitor, a heretic. A lot of early Christians were attracted to the dualist nature of his religion, the whole good versus bad philosophy. This led certain bishops and theologians to lead the charge against this faith. One former Manichaean, St. Augustine of Hippo, became Christian and fiercely fought against the religion, seeing it as a heresy. When the whole Christianity debate was settled in Rome and they firmly became Christian, they stomped out Manichaeism. The religion survived in these small, scattered groups, but the public presence was gone. In untamed Central Asia, Manichaeism found a lot more success. It flourished, really. It was actually embraced as the state religion of the Uyghur Khanate, but, like always, when their power collapsed and someone else came onto the scene, Manichaeism was on the chopping block. In China, Manichaeism had a very stable but quiet run. Eventually, imperial authorities cracked down on all other foreign religions, including Christianity and including Islam too. And Manichaeism was gone. Manichaeism didn't fade because of its teachings. It faded because it was outcompeted by other religions. The rise of Manichaeism is thanks to the way that it adapted to whatever region it found itself in. The structure that Mani provided made it a perfect religion to spread across the Silk Road and become the first major world religion. His followers believed that they were all taking part in some cosmic rescue mission, getting all the light and bringing it back. It made people feel like they had power, and it made them feel like they actually could affect the stakes of the light versus dark situation. The story of Manichaeism is a story of a religion that understood human suffering. It framed it clearly and offered a pathway to salvation. Thank you for watching.